Hi everybody, thanks for joining us. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Peter Llewellyn and I run the services at MedCommsNetworking.com and the associated websites. So information, resources, activities, events and so on for people who work in and around the global MedComms community, by which I'm talking people who work in and around medical communications, medical education, medical publishing and the affiliated businesses. And importantly, anybody who's got an interest in finding out more about MedComms, maybe because you're thinking about a career in medical writing or something. On that point, we produce a lot of information for people who are interested in a career at a site called firstmedcommsjob.com. And we're doing a lot of stuff online. We're recording these webinars and so on. You'll find more than 400 videos now at NetworkPharma TV, recordings of webinars like this and other video content. So there's lots of content to go and explore if you've not seen it before. The great thing with these webinars is we can involve people from all over, talking about all sorts of interesting topics. So we've got a nice international audience again today. Thank you very much for joining us. And I'm delighted that we've got the guys here from McCann. And I'm going to let them talk and introduce themselves in a moment. Basically, we're talking about sort of development and learning and support of people and different ways of going about that. And I'm always going to say the same thing in these webinars these days when we talk about this topic. MedComms has matured a lot in the last few years, and a lot of resource and effort is going into supporting staff, which I think is a great reflection on our business. Different agencies are going about it in different ways. And today we're going to hear from the team at McCann as to some of their approaches to that. So Rebecca, over to you. We're going to have a presentation Q&A. Over to you, Rebecca.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone, and thanks, Peter, for having us. So, as Peter said, I am Rebecca Douglas. I am Group Programme Director for Talent at McCann Health Medical Communications, or MHMC. And we've come to talk to you today about our Development Director role. And we've chosen this topic because we think that, so far at least, it's fairly unique within the medical communications industry. And we've called this session Sparking Both Innovation and Inspiration in Development, because really we think that that's what our development directors do. So we wanted to come and share that with you. So to give you a bit of an overview about how today's session will run, I will talk just very briefly about some of the mechanics around this role, and then I'll hand over to three of our development directors, Sarah Lewis, Sarah Thomas and Joe Frost, and they'll give you some insight into their work and how they're making an impact. So hopefully you will come away from today understanding a bit more about what we feel is a pioneering role in the industry. And I really hope that we convey to you how passionate we are about enabling talent within our business and within the wider industry, and subsequently how that goes on to enable our people to deliver excellence for both our clients and for the wider healthcare industry. So we're going to have some presentations and then we'll finish off with lots of time for questions. So as we're going along, please feel free to post them in the chat and then Peter will moderate them at the end. Okay, so we currently have 9 development directors across our agencies, and 8 of those people that you can see on this slide are embedded within our agencies. And then we've got Jo, who sits at the group level, and you'll hear more from her later on. And you can see just by looking at this slide that there are a huge number of years of experience sitting within this role. And this really demonstrates how important we think the role is to talent development at MHMC. So I've put this build in just to share a few of the qualities that I have the pleasure and actually the privilege of seeing in action in our team of development directors day in, day out. And what you'll see here is that they're all really positive words. So experts, enablers, innovators, inspirers, pioneers, role models, they're very positive words. And really that reflects the positive nature of this role and the partnerships that exist between our development directors and our teams. It's really all about partnership. And I'm sure that the qualities that you see here on this slide are ones that you'll recognize from people who have inspired you and probably continue to inspire you within your career so far. So this just gives a little bit of information into some of the mechanics around this role. So our development directors are, for the vast majority of their time, non-client facing. So they're in role to support and really to actually accelerate the development of other people by sharing their own experience and expertise. And so effectively, whilst they're non-chargeable for the most part, they very much enable the generation of revenue through helping other people to develop and to fulfill their potential. So by making our development director team non-client facing, we allow them the dedicated time and space to do that. And that's really important. Another important point is that our team is multidisciplinary. So we work across writing, client services, editorial, and regulatory roles. The development directors are mostly embedded within teams, so they partner both at a Fuel associate level. So Fuel is our entry-level talent development program. It stands for Future Experts and Leaders, but they also partner across the mid-tier roles. And we think that that's a really important point, because whilst there's been a lot of focus in the industry over recent years on entry-level writing roles, and that's brilliant because it's brought and developed really good people into our industry, which is fantastic. But we also think it's really important that the development firstly includes the whole team, but secondly, that it doesn't lose momentum after that initial entry level. So the partnership continues. At MHMC, all of our talent development is based on a 70-20-10 split. So it's a philosophy that underpins everything that we do. So it's 70% on the job learning, 20% dedicated feedback and mentoring and reflective learning, and 10% formal learning. So it's all about creating that whole package of development opportunities and about complementing what we feel is our comprehensive and industry-leading training sessions. And the development directors get involved in those training sessions too. So fundamentally, before I hand over, this role is all about partnership. It's about enabling our talent to lead their own development, and recognizing that traditionally people have thought about career development in terms of changing job titles and getting those promotions. But for us, it's much more than that. It's about incremental steps in progression and doing that across a range of core competencies. And that happens day in, day out. And our development directors are there to partner that progression. So on that note, and with this image, I will pass over to Sarah Lewis to find out more about her work.
Thank you, Rebecca. Hi, everybody. My name's Sarah Lewis. I'm a Medical Development Director at CMC Connect, which is part of McCann Health Medical Communications. Following a career in academia, I joined CMC, as we were back then, in 2008 as an Associate Medical Writer, which led to a position as Medical Director, specialising in oncology publications and medical affairs. I transitioned to Medical Development Director in 2021, and that's really enabled me to focus on the guidance and support of people at different stages of their career journey and really play a much greater role in their future development. Next slide, please, Rebecca. So part of my role as Development Director is to work with our new starters who've joined our entry-level Fuel programme, where we're really looking to develop well-rounded and adaptable medical communications experts and also inspire our next generation of industry leaders. So to enable that, some of the things that I'm involved with might be building a strong foundation through the development, review and delivery of training materials, and that could be via e-learn modules, live group sessions or targeted one-to-one sessions, or the review of live project work to aid the development of our medical services individuals, and this also allows our account leads to focus on delivery. I also collaborate with team leads and line managers to identify areas for development or focus, which ensures all our individuals are given opportunities to reach their full potential. And I also hold one-to-one induction sessions with new Fuel members to highlight our learning culture at McCann Health and our supportive, inspiring, challenging and inclusive atmosphere. Next slide, please. Another aspect of my role is to work with our mid-tier team members and provide them with the support and knowledge they need to progress further along their chosen career paths at McCann Health. And this may involve development, review and delivery of mid-tier training materials, both for medical and client service team members via e-learn modules and live group sessions, or helping to drive a culture of strategic thinking amongst our mid-tier colleagues by identifying opportunities where we can add value for our clients. And I also partner with team leads to identify and provide bespoke support for our future leaders. And that can be both hard and soft skills, with the aim of motivating and enabling them to meet their full potential. And I also personally line manage mid-tier medical service colleagues and participate in line management group discussions, which enables us to set objectives which can optimize development opportunities for individuals. Next slide, please, Rebecca. So if we look beyond Connect, I also work alongside our other development directors at group level, where we can share our experiences and collaborate on learning opportunities across our McCann Health brands. And this can include, again, more development, review and delivery of training materials, both for medical and client service team members across McCann Health via e-learn modules and live group sessions. And we also encourage interagency collaboration and networking across the brands via our development director groups and activities, where we can benefit from our complementary skill sets and experience. And alongside the other development directors, I attend external and internal training courses to further my own development and increase my skills and knowledge of adult learning concepts. And finally, I'm also involved in McCann Health Medical Service recruitment activities, such as writing test assessments and field discovery days. So I'd now like to hand over to Sarah Thomas, who's going to talk through the process of working with a medical director.
Thanks, Sarah. I'm Sarah Thomas, Client Service Development Director in CMC Connect. I've worked at McCann Health Medical Communications for 11 years now. And prior to that, I worked in a learning and development consultancy for a number of years. So it's great to be in a role where I can bring all of that experience together. In my role as a Client Service Development Director, I work in close collaboration with our group of line managers and account leaders. This collaboration enables us to work as a dynamic partnership, spotting learning and development needs across our team early. Today, I'm going to talk about one aspect of my role, and that's a hypothetical scenario to illustrate how I would work with a talented account manager who would like to gain additional experience, which will enable progression to senior account manager. Next slide, please. So once a specific learning need or knowledge gap has been identified, we would follow a 5-step process to support the account manager. And the first step in that process is an evaluation of learning needs. And at this stage, I would work closely with the individual and team leads to create targeted and specific time-based objectives with the goal of filling knowledge and skill gap. The next stage is to enable. And at this stage, it's really important to call out employee strengths and to let them know what they're already great at. We want learning to feel positive and progressive. It's also important to get to know the individual so that we can identify their learning preferences and tailor coaching and training to their particular learning style. Third step in the process is to a challenge, and the account manager needs to be really brave and step outside of their comfort zone. And if I look back at my own career, I can see that my own personal development has come when I've pushed through uncomfortable projects and situations and put my hand up for new opportunities that are often a bit scary. When we're working with people to achieve their career goals, we need them to commit to being brave. Fourth step in the process is to support. And throughout this whole process, development directors provide continual guidance and feedback. It's really important to receive in the moment feedback that you can use to positively influence your development and help you reframe challenges as learning opportunities. The development director role enables us to have focused time and space to feedback and coach people to work through their own thoughts and solutions. And the fifth step in the process is embed. Embedding learning is one of the key outcomes we want to support with, because it's great to attend training and learn new skills and work on new projects, but to achieve success, individuals need to demonstrate the ability to create new habits that can be applied to their everyday work. And so what are our successes? Well, we're a relatively new team within the group, but we can already see signs that we're supporting with retention and employee engagement. But what I'd really like to draw your eye to is the statistic in the middle of this slide, and it's that 96% of respondents in our MHMC annual survey feel there are people at work who care about them as a person. Development directors are in place to maintain that strong percentage. We're here to develop, encourage, and support our amazing team. Next slide, please. So I feel really privileged to be part of this pioneering role, not just for our business, but for the industry as a whole. But I feel even more privileged to play a small part in the career journeys of such a talented team of professionals. And so, before I hand over to Joe, I'll leave you with a couple of quotes from account managers who have now successfully achieved their senior account manager ambitions.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you. So I'm going to talk in this next section about finding your North Star. So why have we actually called this Finding Your North Star? So for centuries, people have used stars to navigate by using the brightness of the star to guide them to the destination. So I see this really similar to how we embark on our careers. You know, we're going on a pathway. We're trying to find what interests us, what we're good at, and our passions. So we move along a journey. We're all essentially looking for our North Star to find a career that we enjoy. Next slide, please. So this sort of brings nicely into my role. So just a little bit about myself. So Jo Frost, so I'm the Group Client Service Development Director. So I've been in MedComms for many years in client services, but most recently I moved into this role. I've always enjoyed mentoring and development of people. So you've heard from the both Sarahs about their roles, but my role is quite a bit different to the actual development directors, as I'm not embedded within the teams. I'm actually at group level, which means I'm involved in the tactical decisions that fall behind what we're doing across the business. So although my expertise is within client services, at group level, I do get involved in a variety of different initiatives, working closely with our agencies. So strengthening what we already have in place with our training programs, which is across all the functions. So as I say, I'm primarily involved in the client service, hence by my role title, but I'm also working closely currently with the regulatory team, which is one of the functions that we work with. And it's within their talent development of their staff, which I'm finding actually really interesting because it's getting involved across different departments within the business. So just listening to what, as I say, the role is, I'm really excited by this development director's roles. It really shows how committed we are as a business, you know, not only with the talent, the development of our talent, but creating these new roles. It's given me definitely a passion that I have been able to move into, but it gives others that passion that they're learning and develop, their opportunity to find their North Star. Next slide, please. So just on this next slide, I just want to talk a little bit about what the team is doing. So we're continuing to develop our talent, which we've been doing within MHMC. But the overarching sort of goal is to recruit, develop and retain industry leading talent within our business. So by doing this, we're focusing on specific areas, which I've got here on the slide. So, you know, most important is recruitment. The recruitment process that we want to do is recruit open-minded, ambitious people who thrive from working as part of a diverse team. But then it leads on to sort of our training and development plans. You know, they're already there. We're working on those, enhancing them. They need to be well structured, you know, that equips people with the skills and experience and the networks required. By doing this, though, I think the most important thing is we're creating an environment and a community that is supportive, friendly, and a fun place to work. But whilst again doing this, encouraging a growth mindset for business development, as this allows us and our people to try new approaches with the support and guidance from our development directors. But I think overall, we're providing a clear career development pathway, which is tailored for each of our individual needs, allowing them to lead their own development, and again, support by the development directors. So I think, all these areas that we've been talking at, really do feed into our overarching goals. It's attracting and developing talented people through our fuel entry level and our mid-level development program, to inspire and build a long-term career with us. So next slide, please. So I just want to finally sign off with this slide that Rebecca showed before. It's really, all this is enabling our talent to lead their way, which I think is really important. So over to you, Peter, for any questions.
Brilliant. If I can unmute myself. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you. Okay, cool. I missed the button. Okay, so thank you very much. That was interesting. And just to the audience who are here on the day, please use the chat box and the Q&A box. We'll incorporate your questions, comments, observations into the conversation. But we're just going to have a bit of a chat for 15 minutes or so. I'm going to start by putting one of you on the spot. I don't know who the best one is to ask, so one of you is going to have to volunteer. But it did occur to me in the early stage. We get quite a few people watching these videos who are looking to join MedComms or don't know much about MedComms, don't know much about McCann and so on. Could somebody go back and start at the beginning and it's like paint the picture? So McCann Health as part of IPG, McCann Health Medical. Just give us a bit of a sense of how the structure is and how big you are, and to paint the picture. Do you see what I mean? I'm going to go. Yeah. Is it Rebecca? Maybe you're going to take that one.
Yeah, I'll take it. So we are McCann Health Medical Communications. We sit under IPG Health, and we comprise of 5 agencies. So Complete Regulatory, Complete Health Vision, CMC Connect, CMC Affinity. Was that 4 that I said? Which one did I miss out?
Cordex.
And Cordex. So yeah, so we have 5 agencies and our development directors sit across the agencies.
I'm going to push you a little bit more. I'm leading into something, so I want to paint the picture. Okay, how big are you? This is a big organization, right? I mean, I know you've got individually small teams.
We're over 7. Yeah, we're over 700 people within McCann Health MedComms.
MedComms, right? Okay, so it's a big organization and part of a much bigger organization. Yeah, I just want to get that. And you're all over the world, yeah? You've got offices around.
Yeah, all over the world. And so McCann Health MedComms is primarily based in the UK, North Americas and South Africa. But IPG Health is much bigger than that, with a really global presence and lots of opportunities for mobility between different areas of IPG Health as well.
Okay, that's excellent. People can Google this, I know, and that's fine. They can spend as much time as they like Googling. But I just wanted to get a sort of the sense of the sort of organization we're talking about, which leads into a sort of an obvious sort of point. I started by saying, I think it's great that in MedComms, we're now investing so much more in people and staff and development and yada, 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 which is great. You have taken that, I would argue, to a slightly different level in terms of this, and you mentioned this, I mean, in terms of the weight of people that you've got as directors supporting that. We had a conversation the other day, and I said, as a guy remembering what it was like a long time ago when I was fresh-faced and young, it was all about client-facing, it was all about charging and so on, revenue generation. And I think, Rebecca, I'm going to put you again in the driving seat here, because the way you explained it was quite nice. I thought it was about enabling rather than generating. So I know you've touched on it, but just take a minute or two just to focus a bit more on that, because it is an obvious point that is, there's a lot of support coming into people, which is essentially an overhead to a business. So just talk like you did the other day about this enabling, which I thought was a nice way of talking about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really important, and it's the way that we've been thinking about the role. So with each incremental increase in people's ability, they are able to perform better within their roles, and they feel more confident and they feel more able to pitch new ideas. And working alongside the development directors gives people the confidence to do that. And by doing that, we enable revenue generation. So we are all about people development as a group, but we're also a business, and it's, you know, we have to pay our wages at the end of the day. So yeah, absolutely, I see us as revenue enablers. That's how I would describe it from a monetary point of view. And I think that that's really important. You know, I have also been in the industry for a long time, and I remember what it was like when I first started. You were very much thrown in at the deep end, and you sank or you swam. And I think we've come a long way from that position, and it's good that we've come along that journey as an industry. I think it shows the growth of the industry, the commitment to people within the industry, and where we're going. You know, this isn't the end of the story. This isn't the magic bullet, but it's part of the story, and I think that it's a really important part of it.
Okay, I think that's a really interesting sort of way of thinking about it, and it's important. Has any of the others got some view? I mean, you've all been around a bit, if I can put it like that, I know, for a while. So, you know, and somebody's just asked a question. You know, it's a good thing that's happening, but why weren't we all doing it a long time ago? And I think, Rebecca, you're talking about the maturation of the business, the growth of the business, and so on, which I think is all the answer to that. But anybody else, and maybe Jo, have you got some reflections from where you sit on that point?
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. Yeah, because I think, you know, as Rebecca said, you know, I've also been in the industry for a long time and been on the client side. So, you know, I've always been passionate with development and supporting people within their roles. But as we said before, you know, client work is where, you know, the billable time is, where we're putting our time in. So sometimes it can be really hard to be able to actually support with that, and to be able to you know, allow people to grow within their roles and have the support that they need. So I think this role, that's why I said before, you know, why I'm so excited about it, and why I've changed my career as well, you know, and talking about you know, it's a big thing for me because I've been in for quite a long time on the client side. I've come into this internal role, but I think you know, just seeing what we're doing and just this new team working together and talking to the individuals or having that support, it's really building confidence. It's building things and giving them that the support network they need. So it's progressing them. I'm not saying faster, I wouldn't say faster, but it's helping them earlier on in their careers, as well as people who have done this career for a long time in their mid-level career as well, you know. So I think for me, it's all about investing in people, and I think that's what we're doing as a company. I think we're showing that as careers within the business, we want to be investing in them, and it's important to us. So I think that's where I see it for myself coming into this role.
Okay, and at a wider level, again, just to clarify it for me, is this a McCann Health thing, or is it a wider IPG thing?
It's McCann Health MedComms at the moment, yeah.
Okay. So, and again, an obvious question or point that rises out of this, you know, how big do you have to be able to invest in this sort of activity, or do you just think that in principle it should be everywhere? I mean, it's just an obvious point, isn't it? You're a big group of companies and so on, and this is a big investment. Do you have to be big in order to invest in this sort of way? Have you got a view on that?
I guess that's for the individual company, isn't it, to make their mind up about at what point they make a leap. It is a big leap. You know, we all know it's difficult to attract staff at a certain level in MedComms. You get to a level, it's very difficult to attract staff at that level. That's why so many entry-level programs have been established over the last few years, so we can all grow our own talent. So to take this number of people out of a client chargeable role and a client facing role is a big thing, you know, it's a big commitment. But as I've said, you know, I go back to the point, it then enables other people to accelerate their careers and to shine and to deliver really good stuff. So for us, it's an investment definitely worth making, but I guess other companies have to make their own decision as to when they can make that leap, and if they feel that it's the right leap for them to make.
Okay. Slightly diplomatic, but that's all right. That's fine. Let's just deal with Katie's very specific question here. Have you seen her question? The analogy of the finding a North Star, reminding me of somebody else's initiative, finding your purpose. But one of the things she's saying is that within that initiative, it was, if you want to leave the company, that's fine, sort of thing. It's finding your place in life. I just wonder how you respond to that. I mean, obviously the purpose is to keep people and encourage them, but it's part of it is finding your purpose, and if the purpose is to go somewhere else, is that sort of does that resonate with you, or does that idea not resonate in terms of what you're doing? Who
wants to take this one?
Go on, one of you. Go on, Rebecca. You want to go on, Rebecca. I mean, maybe that you just don't know, haven't thought about it, but I just thought that's an interesting way of looking at things. I mean, I always say to people, I'd rather people talk to me about MedComms and decide they don't want to become part of MedComms. That's fine. I mean, I just think that's part of the enabling thing. Maybe I'm making too much out of this. Have you got a comment to Katie's question, or should we move on?
Yeah, I can answer it. I mean, we are all about, as you know, Peter, we've spoken for many years, and I love MedComms. I love the industry. I love the role that I do. And I want other people to love it too. And that's why I'm in the role that I'm in. We've had 4 placement students start with us from Liverpool this week, and one within the US. Summer placements haven't been a thing that historically has been done very much within this industry, but again, we've committed to it because we think it's really important that people come in and find out about us and decide if it's the industry for them. So I'm not entirely sure where the question's targeted, but I think that it's important that people find what they're good at in life and do that job to the best of their ability.
Okay. Joe, looks like you want to say something.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say on that note, because I think if I look at it in a different way as well, from, basically, it's such a variety. MedComms there's so many different avenues that you can go into. We've talked about for functions that we're looking for this, like for our fuel entry level. If we're there to support them, if they didn't prefer to go into one pathway, we could look at supporting them to go into another pathway. Myself sitting at group level, that's something that I'm looking at, from a sort of efficiencies across the agencies. We're already doing, it's already being done, but from sort of me coming in, be able to spend that time looking at it. If people wanted to go down a different path, yes, they're trying to find their North Star. What we're hoping is that they find the North Star at MHHC, so that we can talk to them and see which other, where they would potentially want to fit. So I think, our initial goal is that these people are coming in, we want people to stay with us, we want them to be the best they can be as they go through their career. So how we do that is things will change as we go along. It's not going to be set in stone and perfect. We need to, it's always going to be involved and progressed as we go along. So I think for me, it's that North Star part of it is that everybody's trying to find a pathway that they enjoy and get the best out of. So if we can do that within within our business, then that's what we're trying to achieve, if that's another way of looking at it.
No, I think it's interesting. I just think these things are interesting to reflect on a little bit. Let's bring the Sarahs into this. I mean, the last couple of years have changed a lot of working practice and on training and development and support and so on. Who am I going to choose first? Sarah T, on your side of the business. How just talk a little bit about how things have changed, I guess, in terms of supporting people in different sorts of ways. I guess a lot more of it's now online than maybe it would have been if you were in this position a couple of years ago, sort of thing.
Yeah, definitely. So before the pandemic, I think people, I didn't even realise this until you get into the midst of the pandemic, but what I noticed with the teams that I was working with, or the new starters, is that people were missing out on the kind of just the learning from people that you sat next to, and the learning from talking in an open plan office, not necessarily even talking, just hearing how someone deals with a conversation, or hearing how somebody's handling a meeting, or just talking about, it's this point in the month, got to do invoicing, and going, oh yeah, I need to do that too. And they were missing out on that. So we naturally found ourselves doing more of this kind of one-to-one coaching role with people through the pandemic, and I think that's helped this role evolve.
And just out of interest, touch on this a bit as a working practice. Where are you at McCann in terms of I mean, is everyone back in the office? Not everyone is on the office, I can see that. Are you encouraging people to come back in the office? Is it very much left to individuals? Just talk a little bit for a moment about that, how that's developing at the moment.
Well, normally I would be in the office, so I work 4
Right.
days, and normally I would be in the office 4 days a week. It was just easier to do this from home, and
Right.
I've been able to do that several months, and the business have been really flexible and understanding and supportive of people's preferences. I couldn't have asked for more. You know, it worked better for me to be in the office. But Sarah Lewis, my colleague in CMC Connect, you're at home, aren't you, for your 4 days?
Yeah, 5 days. Yeah, I do. But yeah, it's, for me, we've been given so much opportunity with flexibility, and we're really, the company really supports us and what works best, for our well-being as well. So I think it's a great, have people in the office, people at home, hybrid working, and it's great to be able to have that flexibility.
So just to pin you down slightly, make sure I'm not missing the point, it's very much down to the individual to decide what they want to do as a rule. Yeah. So, okay, so, but taking the point that Sarah was talking about there, in terms of, I mean, we all know, however good it's all, and I'm an advocate of working like this, okay, but we all sort of know that you come together and you learn by osmosis and so on, yeah? One of the arguments at the moment is about, the younger, more inexperienced people should be in the office to learn by osmosis, right? And the problem is, if the older, more experienced people who are quite confident working remotely are all somewhere else, that sort of, there's a conflict there's a problem in there, sort of thing. Yeah, because the older, experienced people are being beamed into a bunch of youngsters who are sitting there going, why should I come into the office, sort of thing. I just wonder whether that resonates at all, whether I'm talking nonsense, whether you've got any view. Sarah, if you're at home all the time, I'm guessing you don't all the time. I'm guessing there are situations contrived where you meet and so on. Just talk. I'm burbling slightly, but just talk a little bit about the practicalities, because I think we're all in the stage at the moment of trying to figure this out, and it's just interesting to hear your reflections and insights.
I think from McCann's perspective, because we're a global company anyway, under a global umbrella, we're all very used to remote working. We've always had people who work permanently from home, as remote workers. We've got UK teams, US teams, Canadian teams, South African teams. So we're always, used to having those, teams split geographically. So for us, it was more kind of more of the same rather than a unique situation. We do encourage our more junior team members to, go into the office more frequently, and we've always got more experienced and senior colleagues around who they can speak to, so they do get that, popping over the desk interaction with people, and the tea room chat that, we all learn so much from and have done throughout our careers. So that's still available for people. And I think, it's just adapting, isn't it? I think, the whole industry has had to adapt, but we're all set up, for working globally anyway. So it's kind of business as usual, really, from our perspective.
Okay. Anyone else got a reflection on that sort of aspect of how working practices have changed, or you're all just nodding at each other, so everyone's in agreement?
Yeah, go on.
I was going to say, I think the way that those Sarahs have answered those questions, I think is absolutely, we've all been through a pandemic for 2 years where we've had to do it, and we've all recruited people during that period. And to be honest, some of those people have wanted to stay at home. They've not wanted to come into the offices. So that sort of tells you that, from what you're saying, Peter, the younger generation, the people who are starting out in our careers, we've made it work. We've had to make it work. And I think it has changed, and we've adapted. Like Sarah said, we've adapted to that. We've got the flexibility, and we've got the support. And if people, we listen to people. So if they are finding that they want to be in the office, then we will listen to them, and we'll make that work. That they may potentially, if they're on a team where a lot of people are working remotely, it might be that we change the teams, that they're actually in the office with a team that they're working with. So we just adapt as we need to, really. And I think that's all about us talking to our to our teams and listening to them.
And from a training, just to add to that, from a training and development perspective and from a talent development perspective, it's really opened up a world of opportunities for us as well. So there are challenges that I don't think anybody in the industry would say that there aren't, but it allows us to have training sessions with people from all over the world. And so they network more. And so whilst the local networking may have been reduced, the international networking has definitely been increased, because we can run training sessions at a moment's notice if we need to. We can bring different people with different training needs together, so that they can share best practice with each other. So there are limitations in terms of local networking, but in terms of international networking, actually, it's created lots of opportunities.
Okay. I mean, and I guess the answer then to Helen's question is fairly straightforward. Helen's asking, does your roles work as well in agencies that are entirely virtual? I mean, essentially you're saying, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
There's
And
not really a difference.
We're working with teams in North America and South Africa. So I've got people that I speak to daily in North America that I've never met. And it could potentially be quite some time before I have, but we've built up brilliant working relationships, and it's just how it is now. It's just normal.
Yeah. Okay. Normal. Okay. All right. That's interesting. Okay. I still think we're in an evolutionary sort of phase, transitionary phase, and it just intrigues me talking to different people and hearing different agencies and companies talking about it. And in the end, you have to develop a way of working that you're happy with, but it might be different to a different agency, and there are differences. And I do find that interesting, and how people are transitioning. So
we've
anyway,
talked about this
there that we can talk about ad infinitum. Yeah.
We've talked about this in the past, Peter. I think as an industry, we were ahead of the curve, really, in terms of flexible working. So a lot of this was already starting before the pandemic, which then allowed us to transition into the pandemic, which nobody wanted, but it did allow us to transition into that without really that much interruption in business, because we already had so many people who were working remotely. So yeah, it's a change. And it's one that is still a work in progress. I completely agree with you. We don't know where the new normal is yet, but it's not something that we can't deal with.
No, I think it's been interesting because it's accelerated, hasn't it? And our business was moving that direction. It's accelerated dramatically, and there's been a lot of business. So there's been a lot of incentive in there to get to grips and to move it on and all the rest of it. It's the differences between people I find interesting, and whether we're going to go backwards or in different directions. Now things might be calming down and so on. I just think there's still a lot of discussion in there, which I find interesting. So as we're probably pretty much at the end of our time, so we should draw a line here. I think we've covered off the main questions and points, but those of you in the audience, do stick around, because we'll carry on to the top of the hour. What I was just intrigued, this is the sort of question, why not see how you answer, just to finish it off. You're all smiling at me. Tammy's saying, I think basically she's saying, group of directors like yourself, mentoring, coaching, supporting, but not doing the work anymore. At what point do people turn around to you and go, well, you just don't understand what's happening in the coalface? And I think that's a sort of an interesting point to reflect on slightly, just briefly. Go on. So Rebecca, go on, just finish on.
I think that's, I think it's a fair question. And I think that the brilliant thing about the development directors is that they're embedded into teams. So whilst they're not client facing, they're very much working in partnership with the teams day in, day out. So they know exactly what's happening. They're up to date with the projects, they know what's going on. And that's the great thing about the way that this role is panning out, really, for us.
Excellent. Okay, that's a very good note, I think, to finish on there. I'm going to draw the line there. Thank you to the audience for joining in with the conversation. I know I can speak for all of you on the panel, as it were, that you're very happy for people to reach out to you. LinkedIn is the easy way of doing it. Part of the point of these webinars is to encourage people to make connections. So please, anybody watching this today or on the recording later on, please reach out to these guys. They'd love to hear from you. I'm always happy to hear from anybody. Go and have a look at medcommsnetworking.com to find out what we're up to and what else is happening. NetworkPharma TV if you're interested in going back on some of the recordings of other webinars, and so on and so forth. So in these very strange and uncertain times, I'm going to say goodbye. I'm going to ask everybody to give us a little wave as I stop the recording, and wish you well for the day. Bye-bye. Cheers.